trying for you and me. For one thing, I must tell you, I'm a novice in this type of things, so we're trying. But nonetheless, we have been able to finally, although not actually all the glory and majesty, we have whether it's formal. But nonetheless, we're going to make use of what we have. It is a pleasure coming here. I consider it a privilege, an honor, a distinct honor. It is not a right. It's a privilege. So I'm hoping.
Okay.
I will live up to your expectations.
And much more to our viewers who are keen on listening to what you've got to say. So, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard the voice of the man himself, Mr. Mohamed El Kutubu Koroma, on the show for the very first time. So, Mr. Kutubu Koroma, there's much going, much being said, very much more news out there. But to begin with, in this all-important discussion, I want to call it a discussion rather than an interview. Some 57 years ago, we had independence from a country called the United Kingdom, which by then was an imperial power. So 57 years ago, sometime 1961, April 27, we got an independence. But that independence is much more being discussed in different categories at this point as we speak, splitting opinions as usual. I want to ask you, sir, what's your opinion on independence?
Sir, let me go back and tell you, my concept of a self-made and independent nation actually hinges on two factors. One, I want to take my country back from 1957, when we had the very first general elections in the country, the sort of parliamentary democracy we have in Britain, and then perhaps that goes to 1960 with a delegate from that, maybe for what you call the Lancaster House, where independence was actually negotiated. But I must tell you, even from the circumstances of the beginning, and then we have started seeing the state of utter destruction on the part of the APC. Let me quickly point out this. One of the delegates, Mr. Shah Stevens, went in there and resorted to obfuscations and convoluted grandstanding. When by this, he went there, planting a seat of obstacles. And then he came back home, and he came back home telling a whole lot of lies about things that never happened. Thanks to Lord MacLeod, the British Colonial Secretary of State, as well as Sadiq Maga, who stood up to his subterfuge. He came back home and perpetrated all sorts of lies. And up to the time we were about to celebrate independence, he and his henchmen were about to inflict vengeance on the country. As a matter of fact, the Duke of Kent would have been kidnapped. The man who came to represent Her Majesty the Queen. That was one of their diabolical plans to alter and they disrupt water supply as well as electricity supply. But nonetheless, we had a government that was very determined with the rule of law to make sure what the nation actually wanted went on unimpeded. So from 1957, we came down to 1960, and we then went down to March, and April 21st, April 27, 1961, we had independence, and the thing was very peaceful. Then we took it over to 1962, had general elections. From then, those are the only periods I could consider as the golden years of Sierra Leone. And then from 1967 to now, what has befallen the nation does not die and does not kill the concept of independence. That's my take on this.
Okay. Obviously, I know as a man who very well is versed with historical analysis, you could go on and on this. But thanks for the historical development on the question. But I want to fast track this to 2018, sir, in which opinion is split on basically whether independence should be celebrated, and if it is, why should it? Where do you stand on this? Do you believe? Because it depends again on how people are seeing it. First of all, there was independence and there was a cause for independence. Secondly, what you will have expected in terms of independence, what should people derive, the benefits that people should derive from being independent, most likely are questionable. and rightfully so, I believe. But should we have asked for independence, and now that we've got the independence, should we be celebrating in 2018 going forward?
Well, sir, it is not a question of whether we should have asked for independence or not. That's never the issue. Of course, yes. But the fundamental question, what I have to ask myself, whether we are prepared for it. If the answer is yes, did we lay any solid foundation for it? My answer is somehow ambivalent about that. Again, these are at the risk of repeating myself. Between 57 and 1962, we had very good governance, so that actually guides with the reality that we are right when we have independence. Now independence became totally questionable. When we moved from 1967 to date, when we take a retrospective look at things, what we have gone through, the political convulsions and social vicissitudes visited upon the fabric of our nation because of the logic of lawlessness, comes in the fundamental question as to whether we should be talking of independence. That's the answer, sir.
Good. Okay. Thanks for that. Obviously, you're a man again who is versed with political events back home, and within the past 3 months alone, there's been so much that we could spend weeks discussing this. But I want to be specific by asking you, what is your view, sir, on recent political events? By this, I mean, we had elections, we had a change of government in the country. The question, to be specific, is, do you think the political landscape in terms of the traditional understanding of voting, in your opinion, has it changed? By this, again, I mean, people used to vote by region, but this election statistics is showing otherwise. So the general question in this regard is, what is your view on recent political events vis-a-vis change of government, elections, etc.?
Well, again, sir, looking at things, let me quickly add this caveat here. When I will answer your questions, I will do between historical and context. So I hope my audience will actually oblige me. What actually we saw here in March, to me, does not actually amount to an election. What we saw, perhaps I might be naive. I have been in the United States so long, so most times I look at it in the context of how things are done here. I mean, make no mistake, this is not a utopian society. What do we expect a utopian society? But at the same time, we do expect an egalitarian society where the men and women they do feel morally compelled to contribute their quota towards the tax competition. One such begins with electing people that reflect your voice. Now I'm going back to what transpired in McKinney. These are all the road maps that brought us to this point. What transpired in McKinney, and we bring the Dr. Nicola up to India, and we see the input of how Mr. Bureau was elected. These are the ways I intend to frame to come up to your answer. What we saw in McKinney, by every step of imagination, cannot be called an electoral exercise because somebody was imposed on people. Elections, my concept of election, they have to reflect the will. I mean, it's always called the government for the people, by the people, and existing with the.
Can I pause you there briefly, just for the benefit of the audience? When you say what happened in McKinney or what took place in McKinney, what are you referring to, sir?
The so-called convention, the so-called nomination of the presidential candidate, sir.
You're talking about the All People's Congress, is that correct?
Yes, sir. So I'm breaking them down into those few of them. So I'm coming back to your answer. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just pausing you briefly because we need to create a premise as to the direction where you're going. So probably there might be a change of direction, because when you talk vehemently against the system as it were, what happened there in Makeni, as you put it. The question I wanted to ask before you make progress is, my understanding is there are two approaches in terms of the All People's Congress, in the form of either selecting or electing. So the prerogative is theirs. They decided to go the other way. So when you are focusing directly on elections, if there is an agreement within themselves, there's a consensus either on the book in black and white or otherwise, but there is a consensus, then I believe that they were on the right path. The process probably you could question, but they've got the prerogative of either elections or selection.
Should I come in, sir?
Yes, sure.
Okay, if that was the case, let's say we have A and B, and actually people actually had in mind, they had actually option A in mind. All they could have done was to make a general announcement. Hey guys, guess what? This is what our roadmap says. Actually, we who are in charge, we the guys who are the highest authority here, let's say their neck or whatever they call it, this is what we decided. So there will be no need for any convention. We have just gone straight away. This is what we have said. This is what actually is on our books, is what we say. But when they get the ambience to everybody that they are going for a nomination, now all sorts of people, and then you have their leader. Probably with this, Owen and chicanery. I mean, he kept telling everybody, okay, prepare yourself, prepare to speak. Yeah. Know very well what they have in mind. It is this deception that I really take the strongest exception. I don't have a problem with they having A or B. But the thing though, you should not leave people in the quandary from the circumstances of the beginning. That should have been made known to them that this is what we have decided on. Then we would have moved from there. That's my take on this, sir.
Okay, you seem to be expressing your views on this particular issue very, very strongly. You sound almost emotional on the issue. So that leads me into the next question in terms of your political stripe. People largely believe that you belong to the National Grand Coalition of Dr. Kande Yunkela. Are you convenient to state that publicly in this interview or this discussion, sir?
Thanks for the question, sir. I belong to the NDC by way of green, white, and blue. I see my own politicking in the context of green, white, and blue, meaning that green, white, and blue supersedes my being a member of NDC. Everything else, I see it in the context of green, white, and blue first, and NDC second. That's my answer, sir.
Okay, that leads me to the second part of the question, which is before the NGC, because the NGC, everybody knows, is relatively new. So before the NGC, you sound very, very political. So my question is, did you belong somewhere prior to NGC, sir?
Again, I was with my SLPP within the context of green, white, and blue. Green, white, and blue first, SLPP second. That's the answer, sir.
All right, thanks for that. So therefore, I want to ask you now, what is your view about the Sierra Leone People's Party currently as we speak? And there's a second part to this question as well, which is, I also want you to weigh in to the current leadership and the head of state. So the question again is, what is your view about the Sierra Leone People's Party, SLPP, the party which is in governance now, the current leadership, and the head of state, retired Brigadier His Excellency Julius Maada Bio?
The SLPP that I knew as a small boy coming up, the SLPP that I knew, and today's SLPP are like night and day. Perhaps that's the reason why I left this point SLPP. Because the SLPP I knew was one of inclusiveness, was one that took into consideration the national character of the society. It was an SLPP where all divergent viewpoints were accepted. I knew of an SLPP that had people like YDC Say, IB Taylor Kamala, Mahmoud Ahmed, HEB John, and John Tariq Osman, Mohamed Mustafa and Kandebure. I knew all about SLPP. I never knew of an SLPP that only came from the south and the east. I did not. With me,
can I pause you there? What you're saying is quite a kind of charged language, if you like. So, and I quote you. I did not know about an SLPP. You're basically belonging to the south. Are you accusing this SLPP of only belonging to the south?
Well, the second events cast their shadow. Sometimes it is not what you say, it is what is implied. That's why they say perception when it comes to reality. Perception is reality. I mean, it is my perception, and I don't have a right to hold an opinion of what I'm seeing. That's why I made a comparative analysis. The SLPP that I saw, and the people that I have named, and what I'm seeing now, are like night and day.
But again, in a historical narrative, sir, the formation of both parties, their lineage, and our culture, our psychology in terms of our politics, all belongs to this two-party, this duopoly that we have in the country until then, when NGC was trying to make a break, and before the NGC, that of Dr. Khalifa Smart, may his soul rest in peace. But it's basically northern southerners. And earlier on, I asked you a question as to whether the dynamics of this kind of voting has changed. Because if we should reflect on recent statistics coming from the just ended elections runoff, SLPP did make gains into the north. So that's why I asked the question earlier on. Has the dynamics in terms of voting changed? Is it going to be the same, or is it going forward, is it going to be different? But again, let me not dilute the waters, because I want to focus on the issue of SLPP and belonging to the south. And as you see it, that SLPP happens to be only a southerner party, and talking about perception, and perception can be truth. But that belongs to you. Is that correct?
Yes, that's where I look at it.
Okay, and
I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Okay.
That's the way I look.
Okay.
Quickly, sir, let me ask you.
Yeah, go on, please. This is serious enough. Yeah.
This was APC that voted against APC. And then Mr. Bio is a beneficiary of what NDC did by breaking this tribal barrier. And by NDC coming in here, what they did was to hold on APC's stranglehold on the north. So Mr. Bio became a beneficiary of what happened in the north. So it was APC that voted against APC here, sir.
Okay, that's brilliant. So there was a second part to the question in terms of you've dealt with the SLPP. I then ask you, what is your view again about the current leadership and the current head of state, retired Brigadier His Excellency Julius Maada Bio?
First of all, we go to disabuse ourselves. From this title of Brigadier. Now let me give you the reason. Mr. Mohamed was Major General of the Armed Forces. Once he metamorphosed into political leadership, he ceased being a Major General and Buhari. That went for Mohamed. Once Mohamed became president, he ceased being a Major General. That went for all the other guys who have held this military titles. What we try here to do, though, is make sure we do not transmogrify this guy into such a mythical figure that it becomes the initial and end all, the alpha and omega. This is how it started with Ernest by Koroma, when people started giving campuses on his personality. Let's start calling this man first of all, the style of the offices is excellence in the president. The spoken word there is Your Excellency. Nothing beyond that. We are not running a military and a democracy here. We're running a democracy here based on the rule of law. So going forward, the grammar is simply called His Excellency the President, Mr. Julius Maada Bio. Nothing like Brigadier. No, that's gone. That shall be gone into oblivion. Now let me give you what my opinion about him.
Thank you.
He has been accused of a host of things. Well, of course, in politics, you have to explain that. Your opponents are going to throw a lot of text on you. Now, it is in an elevated and highly responsible position from where he is able to command a panoramic view of the circumstances of the nation. It is from what he is doing that's going to reinforce the belief or the perception they had about him. Or, so wait a minute, we have a fundamentally mistaken premise about these guys. This is not the sort of guy, this is not the monster we said he was. This is not the human rights violator we said he was. This is the guy, he believes in the rule of law, he believes in the separation of powers, which you have all the time. And from time to time, I have been making my podcast. He does not have legislative authority here. According to Montesquieu, a French jurist, he was very wary of people, with too many powers. So he advocated a system where powers that was going to be divided among people. That's why we have an executive, we have an legislative branch, and we have a judiciary. So as long as Mr. Biot understands that he derives his power through the Constitution and that his office is sovereign man for the Parliament, we will not have a problem there. Meaning that he doesn't have dictatorial powers here, he cannot use the decrease there, he will have to submit himself to the will of Parliament. There will be no problem there. That's my answer.
But for now, because your opinions are weighed largely on these predictions and premises that you're setting. Again, going to retired Brigadier His Excellency the President, he was once a head of state, and for a few months, okay, he's been sitting and watching the political landscape, and sure enough, this man will have been, even in pencil, will have been sketching something, because we can now clearly say that he had an eye, an objective on becoming, the president of the country again in a civilian form. And now that he has become the president of the country again, after 20 some more years of observing on the sidelines, and once upon a time he occupied this highest office, sure enough, he will know what to do. What's your take?
Well, the way I look at politics is, it is not a question of whether he knows what to do. That's very academic. What it is, I keep remembering, as long as his actions conforms or dovetails with the constitutional thinking of the country, that's it. That's the alpha and omega of the argument here.
You're not accusing the president that he's not constitutional, are you?
No, I'm not accusing him. I say as long as, listen carefully, as long as his method of governance, his modus operandi revolves around the constitutional thinking of the country, that's it. For example, I just said that he does not have legislative powers. The Constitution does not give him that. He has to consult with the Parliament.
And therefore,
everything he does, yes.
And therefore, you have to forgive me for barging in while you're trying to develop. And therefore, that takes me into the most recent of events. Like I said from the beginning of this interview, there have been many events. That takes me to the most recent, since we're talking about issues relating to constitutionality, the rule of law, governance, the president, the various arms of government, which you try to develop very well, executive, legislative, and judiciary. The recent fracas in Parliament. We've had a briefing space now, so most of us have come to understand what really transpired in Parliament. Would you want to weigh in as much as you understand what really happened, and what's your opinion again on what transpired?
Well, thank you for the question. Again, this is where I come to embrace what we call the rule of law. The Parliament of any country serves as the highest body that defines the country. In other words, if Ireland is going to be known as a country that thrives on the fundamental edifice of the rule of law, the Parliament, for all intents and purposes, cannot be disputed. Here is what happens. It's very simple. There was an induction, a court. Exactly when we started this conversation, I did talk plenty about the three separate arms of government. The court said, please stay away from this place. Whilst we go through what your grievances are. That's what the court said. It's very clear. And let me even give you a very dramatic example. Let's say you were driving around, and say you were driving around Trafalgar Square, and then you met the police guys, and the police guys are there. They had this cordon, they have the yellow tape there. Sir, are you going to go through that, sir?
No.
Let's say the police block the traffic. Are you going to go through, sir?
Sorry, repeat the question, please. If I am going to.
The question is this. Let's say you were driving around in Westminster.
Yep.
I mean, say by Parliament Square.
Okay.
Okay. And then you have a police officer back there blocking the traffic. They have a tape or barrier.
Yeah.
Are you going to go through that, sir?
Not at all. No chance.
Good. Yes. No. It's not a question of a chance. Are you going to go through that?
No, that's what it means that when I say no chance, there's no way I'm even going to try it. It's not really possible. There has to be respect for law. You have to understand the circumstances. So I am not going to.
People we are told to stay away until 15 or 16 people we are told to hold off until the court hears them. Manguna and others decided to defy the court and went inside the innermost recesses of the nation's heart, the parliament, went there and they engaged in what I call riotous conduct. And the mob rule, we saw the mob mentality, the logic of lawlessness, totally unacceptable. As a matter of fact, I have even come out with the broadcast saying all those MPs who sat in there and never condemned the desecration of our parliament need to ask themselves whether they are fit to be in parliament. Yeah. They did not ask every SLPP MP to leave. No, they did not ask all of them to leave. It was only 15 or 16 people. Those guys should have had enough respect for the rule of law, for what the court said, by not going there. By then when they precipitated the crime by going there. So as far as I'm concerned, those guys are condemned. And if APC decides to walk out, I mean, the tabernacle of hypocrisy on their part cannot be more palpable than that. These are the guys, when things are in their favor, they believe in the court. Remember the case of Dr. Yukela, they believe in the court. Because it is in their favor. When it is not in their favor, they don't believe in the court. That's what we call Machiavellian approach to life. You cannot cherry pick on lemon drop issues, laws. No. It is either we all believe in law or we don't. Okay? The court clearly made it very clear. It's as clear as anything. So as far as I'm concerned, Mohamed has gone, and those who went to that place that are not supposed to get a bail now, and those who said that who did not condemn them are better in lawlessness. The APC guys who went out in mass did on the other nobody doing it, and they have to also understand there's a precedent to that. Last year, SLPP decided not to be part of the parliament because they felt the elections were totally balanced with fraud and irregularities. They decided not to be part of it, but the nation went ahead. So if APC decides not to be part of the parliament because of whatever reason that's going to be on there, the advancement of the elections cannot be held hostage to the whims, views, and caprices of any individual than any political party. That's my take on that, sir.
Yeah, thanks for that. I'm not sure whether Machiavellism is really applicable in this situation, and the issue of the APC walking out. I mean, this is a party. They are a party in opposition, and let no one gets me wrong. What I'm trying to say is those that were barred from entering entered. If they had to evict them, it will make sense to them as a team that all of them will have to leave because there is no need for half to stay and half gone. It will make no sense to them. So therefore, they join their comrades in terms of solidarity to actually walk out. But let me move to the next point, Mr. Kutubu. The practice among those with power and influence as we know it in our society, okay? This is of favoring relatives or friends, whichever way you want to categorize it. And this is by giving them jobs. Okay? I call this nepotism, or I ascribe this to being nepotic. The appointments of friends equally and associates to positions of authority without proper regard, my friend, to their qualifications, I also refer this as cronyism. And this was rife in the Gon administration. Okay, with this present core of leadership in Freetown, in Sierra Leone, in the country, do you think they're going to shy away from those practices which we are now questioning the previous government, or do you think that is equally going to be rampant in the new government?
Well, with me, a man who believes in the rule of law, who believes in justice, who believes in there's one thing in law they call benefit of doubt. Give somebody the benefit of doubt. On that, I will hold any judgment. Until I see, and then the appointees, based on what I see, then I'll be able to come up with my opinion or come up with a statement either for or against. So for now, I'm going to grant the person the benefit of doubt. I'm going to take the position that when making an appointment, he's going to take into consideration the national character of the society, that there are fair laws in sense. It doesn't matter whether they voted for you or not. What you got to look for, you got to look for competent people. If even within the APC people, you felt there were very competent and patriotic people there, you could also bring that there's something wrong with that. This question of winner takes all mentality, we have to do away with that. Because I won, so everything of the world, we have to do away with that. This is a part of the problems you get through. So when the next guys also come, like, guess what? We won, okay, we have to take everything. And this is why this mediocrity comes in.
Okay.
People who cannot match up to it again, because they all won. So we have to move out. But again, like I said, I'm going to give the president the benefit of doubt, wait for it to finish, we all the disappointment, and then we'll take it from there, sir.
Okay, brilliantly said. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are just joining the channel then and now, we are speaking as a one-to-one discussion, if you like. We don't want to call it an interview, with Mr. Kutubu Koroma, Mr. Mohamed Kutubu Koroma, who needs no really formal introduction because within the specter of social media, he is so relevant and dominant because he comes up all the time with his analysis, and talk programs on a daily basis, which he cascades on the different forums that you can imagine. So we are having a one-to-one today. And this is a man who is controversial, who is a polarizing figure in our community because every time he speaks, he splits opinion. So we decided to have him on this channel today, and hopefully this is not the last of many collaboration that we will be expecting with Mr. Koroma. We've got many more questions to ask Mr. Koroma, and because of time, we're going to have to run through them, really quickly. And the next question, Mr. Koroma, is for me personally, and I've made it known within the public domain, that I am of the view that the new leadership, just like any government anywhere in the world, a newly elected government should be given a period to reflect, to assume, to understand. I call it a honeymoon period. There were people who disagreed, but of course, probably I didn't categorize it well when I said honeymoon. They look at it in the raw form instead of the euphemistic way. So I believe that they should have a honeymoon period, and then that honeymoon period is something between 90 days and 100 days, 3 months at most. Do you share a similar sentiment, sir?
I just told you that I spoke of benefit of doubt. Remember, I told you benefit of doubt?
Yeah. Okay. You are regarded as a staunch National Grand Coalition supporter. I think I asked you something related to that earlier on, and you make no bones about it. I got a little bit confused. That's why I bring it up again, because somewhere you cleverly, develop the support, the unflinching support that you've given Dr. Kane Yunkela and the NGC by saying, it's under the mantra Salon Force, which is a good one. Again, I did ask whether you were affiliated with any political stripe prior to your support of the NGC. This time around, I'm asking you, if that was the question and you answered it, why did you make that transition?
Well, if you recall, I told you that the SLPP I knew, I gave names, I touched out names, what I saw then is what I'm seeing now. I'm seeing a more regional SLPP than what I used to see. I threw in names. From all four corners of the country. That's what. And the very wrong. That's my opinion. That's what I'm saying. So with that, I decided to be in Ethiopia the talk of inclusiveness. Where you are not bad because of the religion you come from. As long as you have something to contribute towards your quota, towards the act of it. We are all in this business to ensure an egalitarian and just society. We are all of us are expected to contribute our own quota towards the act of nation and in harmony with the legitimate.
You cannot aspire to be loved by everyone. Of course, Mr. Jimmy. If you want to be respected, you first need to ensure that you are actually worthy of it. When you look after your people with care and consideration, they in turn look after you. Kudos to you, Prince. Thank you very much, sir. I salute you. Mr. Roland Karimu, welcome. Again, for those of you who just joining, we are having a one-to-one with a controversial and polarizing figure, Mr. Kutubu Koroma, who is outlining his virtues, what he's been saying on the national fora. We don't need much more introduction of Mr. Kutubu because he's well known. Okay, Mr. Kutubu is back. Mr. Kutubu is back. That's all right. That's all right, sir. That's all right. We'll just continue with the interview because we really haven't got time. So I will move on to the next question, which is,
yes, sir.
Personally, you like to refer to Dr. Kande Yumkela as our leader. What is it that you see in him that makes you to be so vociferous about him and his movement?
Well, I'm so enamored of his leadership for several reasons. One, he comes to the job with several distinctions to his honor. I mean, having been his review in the international community for a very long time, and to be very honest with you, we've actually not had a leader yet since independence to now who is so widely known in the international community. That's one. And to me, he seems to have the cognitive ability to articulate the issues, the ills of the society. He pontificates what his problems are, and he talks of the problematic measures necessary to arrest the rot of decadence and escapism that has eaten at the veneer of civility in our society, sir.
Okay. So again, your party, I'm alluding to the National Grand Coalition, they did campaign. I mean, this is history now, but they did campaign on the basis of change. But the results obviously were not one that was expected. So first of all, what kind of change were they campaigning about? And why did you think they performed so dismally at the elections based on the results?
You know, there are so many factors. For the very first time in the political history of Sierra Leone, we've not had this sort of campaigning. I do not intend to sound very derogatory or dismissive or condescending. But you know, in contemporary Sierra Leone, we don't campaign on issues. Not that you correctly, you know, you came around talking about, you know, regionalism and that thing or whatever it was indirectly. As long as, let me just say all this here. In a campaign, I have people say, perhaps there are some people there who speak Mene, so they could hear that. You want to say what I said?
Yeah, sure. Feel free, sir.
You know what that means? That's the law. That might mean a foreigner, a stranger, a alijo. That's what they refer to. And once they said that kind of message, I mean that it resonated with people. People didn't want to know the man's background, what he can do. Once they said that that was it. That also stuck. It stuck. And my people, to be honest with you, they've been accustomed to this green palm tree.
Can I interject quickly on the basis of what you just said earlier on? Okay, that yes, that was a slur. Okay, what was used. Again, we can go back and see who first used it. Because there are arguments, equally there are arguments out there. Who first used it? Again, it could be said, how, when, why was it used? So the interpretation, it becomes murky in how people go about and defining it, especially so in the age of social media, in which information is readily available at the tip of your finger. And then everybody suddenly have become analysts and etc. Okay, I take it that it depends on the view or the way how it was used and how people define it, who used it and when.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm working back again. You don't think, for some reason, I'm so enamored of history that I don't see myself talking that way right now.
Right.
Yes, the time when His Excellency and the President, then the candidate, Mr. Bio, was addressing the gathering. He was addressing the gathering. All of a sudden, Mr. Bio changed the lingua franca into Meli. So that became an issue.
Is he not entitled to that? Can't he? Depending on who is addressing. I mean, there's a multitude of language that we speak in the country. The president can decide. Again, it depends on how it's being interpreted. It depends on who he is addressing. Do you have an issue with that?
Well, the thing was actually recorded. So if it was, say, let's say it was just in the place, just talking to a group of people, from his own place entirely, but when the thing was recorded, then the fundamental question was, how about people who cannot relate to his language, are they not entitled to hear this?
So again, let me ask you, sir, who was he addressing? What was the occasion? Does that matter?
He was addressing the gathering, definitely the gathering.
Yeah, I mean, what was the composition? What was the composition? What was the configuration of this gathering? What was the intent? What was the program behind this gathering, sir?
Well, it was the political gathering in one of the southern regions. But also remember, there are also people in that region who are not part of this pride.
Yeah, but Mr. Kutubu, in politics, you will know this very much, probably more than I do, that when you are appealing to your base, you speak the language that they understand. Not necessarily have to be dialectic. It can be, whichever way that they understands it. So you can't, put the president in one corner for appealing to a base in which largely is comprising of the language that he was speaking to, because he had to make himself heard. He had to appeal to them. So that depends on the situation and the occasion. And if you say he was speaking in that part of the country and the occasion was about them, can't we forgive him? Should we begin to make judgments on those bases?
Well, I would. If I were that question will not even have come up, because once you bring it up, it opens a whole new set of things. If you recall, in my earlier statements, I said, and I'm going to continue holding on this, the SLPP I knew from 1957 to date is not the SLPP I'm seeing. And that's an opinion that I'm entitled to.
And it also depends on what you mean. Because since 1957 to now, that's many, many decades ago, you don't expect the party to be static. One thing which is obvious is like change is constant.
Well, I don't have a problem with change. Only that the change will have to reflect the legitimate aspirations of all and sundry. That's where I stand.
Okay, we'll take that. So again, we know that the country is a multi-party democracy, but it has this duopoly of All People's Congress and SLPP, or vis-a-vis, whichever one you want to put first, with a token third all the time. Before then, it was Sober. Before Sober was Dr. Karifa Smart. And then now we are talking about the NGC. How optimistic are you in terms of the future of your party, which happens to be the third party in the place, and its leadership?
Well, let me come back to this. What has happened before the advent of NGC is that you have people who came forward telling us they actually want a change in direction. But the fundamental question is, were they sincere? Were they honest? Did they have the moral compass and the ethical foundation for that? The answer is no. Let me give you the latest example. Mr. Charles Magnai was in the SLPP. Either for cynical expediency or tactical consideration, he decided to leave, that you're going to come up with the third force, which was really very nice. He came up with it. Now, what did we see? We saw a man who stood up there at the peak of Mount Everest and pontificated all the ills of society, people he denounced, and then when we turned around, he was in bed with them. Come on, what's this? What's this doing? If you say, it is not how many people you have added somewhere. It is the core belief, the principle, what we stand for. If NGC continues saying that, no, we want to see a transformed Sierra Leone, these are they still very focused. They stay focused. They are not in the sidetracked by anything. First means we'll be going to have a very good system of governance. Now, for the very first time, now the political parties, especially the two major parties, the two GOPs around the APC and SLPP, are now going to understand that there is a third force, and that when the people are tired of them, tired of their shenanigans, their soft approach, their mendacious tactics, their way they are going to doing things, they're going to fall on a third party.
All right. Okay. That seemed like far-fetched and it's a really an optimistic view, and I like that how you pronounce that very strongly and the kind of languages used. We've gone past the 1 hour mark, and I need to run through these questions quickly. We'll have other days, never mind, and we'll take our time, here to absolutely explore your brilliance. Now, I move on to your take on the All People's Congress. Do you? And I want this briefly because this question is charged, and there's so much that you could say based on this, but I want it done briefly. So your take on the All People's Congress, any view on why they lost, any opinion on the former president, Dr. Ernest Bai Koroma, do you think he contributed to the loss? And most importantly, there are talks and suggestions from some quarters of the general public, and these are some of the things that I know, that a convention is coming up very soon in the United States, because some people, some cross-section of the All People's Congress membership, they want some talks now because they want some reformation to start now. So there are talks and suggestions from some quarters of the general public, especially party members, that the current leadership needs to be purged. Purged is a very strong word, and I use it on purpose. The emphasis is mine. What's your take on that, sir?
Well, again, as a guy who normally likes to consult the philosophers, and you will please excuse me, I'm going to bring in my very good old friend, Edmond Bock.
Right.
Edmond Bock said, those who do not learn through the incidents of history are going to repeat the same mistakes. Or, Winston Churchill said, he said, when we go out there feeding alligators, sleeping with a pepper, you are going to be the last to be consumed. It couldn't be more mistake than that.
Right.
From the circumstances of the beginning, APC should have never crafted a constitution where power is concentrated in the hands of just few people. It is not a question of Ernest Bai Koroma. Ernest Bai Koroma was just using powers that the APC themselves gave to him. He only happens to be a very Machiavellian fellow and a guy who is very actuated by power. APC has to start at, first of all, reviewing their laws, coming up with laws that do not transmogrify any individual into such a mythical figure that he becomes the be-all and end-all. This is where they're going to start. It's not the purging of people, because if you leave those laws in that and bring in the same thing, what guarantee do you have that they can are not going to be another Ernest Bai Koroma? What guarantee do you have?
All right.
No, this is why I talk about the rule of law.
All right, and okay, Mr. Kutubu, well said. And just for echo somebody's contribution at the chat room, that's Mr. Kai Jimmy again, always brilliantly writing, brilliant stuff. And I can't agree less, my brother. We need for lay emphasis on institutions, not individuals. That will better we, so that long after you're gone, it becomes something of some moral value, something that we can embrace, not only us, others as well. This is the best legacy you can leave. Don't do like Chairman Mao Zedong, which happens to be the case, like most of the politicians, and the APC is no exemption. You lift up a stone and then only for let you drop under your foot. Anyway, Mr. Kutubu, you spark controversy with your style of conversation. You are also regarded as a polarizing figure, which we've said at least this is the third time, I believe, with your weekly tips, which are very contentious. Do you have any plans to change your style or approach, sir?
No, sir. I don't believe in that.
Okay, we'll take that for an answer.
I don't say what you want to hear. That's my problem. I don't say what you want to hear. I don't get reflect before people. I do not enjoy anybody's self-worship and vanity. I call it as a seat. It's just as simple as that.
Okay.
If I say black is black. It's, oh, I think it's black. Oh, no.
Okay.
This is black.
Okay. Okay. That's it. But some of your broadcasts equally have left people very confused. In two of your most recent, I'm talking about in terms of your inconsistency at times. So sometimes maybe you've made a tape, and in this particular instance, there was a tape during the visit of His Excellency the President on his visit here during the recently held Commonwealth meeting, in which you praised him. You praised the monarchy here for hosting the summit. You praised the current head of state, retired Brigadier His Excellency Julius Maada Bio, on his visit to Britain, on his visit to historical places. You provided an historical analysis of the places and the significance and how proud you appear for be because you head of state, your leader, was taken to these sites and etc., which by your standard and the way how you articulate them was very good. You were very proud. But within the same day, if I'm not mistaken, because I believe you come out with 2 tapes on a day, the end of the day tape, you then criticized, you then had a witty, blistering attack on the head of state, condemning the visit, and you were so vicious that it left a lot of people dumb and confused. And this is what we're talking about the style of approach and then the inconsistency sometimes. You can't turn around, you praise the man, 1 hour, and then the next hour you turn around on the same issue, and then you give him a dress down, what we call a dress down here. Do you understand where I'm coming from, Mr. Kutubu? And do you understand the narrative that I'm trying to create in terms of what you did?
It's good to clear itself. The protocol surrounding the visit was very okay, and I stand by the protocol. It was very classy and fun. It's something that all of us should keep fighting. That I give 100% to do so. What I have a problem with, once the man came to office, if I were him, there are certain things to me that are more urgent than receiving an invitation to the court of St. James. No, excuse me, sir. That seems to be a diversion, and that's not the question. He made a visit. You lauded the visit. You embraced the visit. We can go back to the tape. I can play the tape. I'm not disputing that. I'm not disputing.
Good. Yeah. So you're diverting. You're not addressing the question. That's what I'm saying. Having lauded the visit, having embraced it, having showed how proud you were of both the former colonial master and the colonial son, and then the visit of the head of state, whom you embraced at the time, and then you call him our leader, our president, and then within the same vein, Mr. Kutubu, you turn around and you did a complete 360, a blistering attack you launched on the president for visiting. You describe it as a complete waste of time, which I consider a 360, and not what the president was elected for. Do you expect to be treated with respect, sir, when you appear to be clearly inconsistent?
Sir, you need also to accept that. Like I told you, my problem was timing. He had all of it, like I told you, I'm in sync with the protocol. It is the timing. It is the timing. The timing. It was too short, and that was the second visit. Too short.
Okay.
The protocol, of course, I like it very much because it actually all went well. It brought respectability on us, but for the timing, that I have a problem with timing. It was relatively too short, and the place was too free. We have just come up from a very contentious election.
So this was a decision. This was a decision potentially that you arrived at after you made the first tape, lauding the visit, lauding the leadership, lauding the monarchy. This was a decision you arrived at after.
I also had even in mind, I could have talked about it timing, but I said, okay, let me give it a little bit, so let him bask in the protocol. Because this is the man who's been also riding bus, just like me and you, and now suddenly he finds himself having dinner with the rich monarch. That's actually it's a phenomenal achievement. But what I'm saying, no, I'm standing by it.
Again, that sounds like an inconsistency in terms of the last statement that you just made. If we go back, hang on, Mr. Kutubu. If we go back 1 minute ago, in which you said, when I asked you the question regarding your inconsistency and how how people will take you in terms of what you say, whether you're going to change your style, you said no. You went on to adumbrate a lot about why you wouldn't, okay, which was clearly heard. So now you seem to compromise those views, saying that, well, you wanted the president to bask in his glory and his newfound, presidency, let him enjoy it. Why would you do that? Is that not, again, an inconsistency with what you said earlier on?
No, you seem to be looking at this from a spectrum where you want to actually that something. Again, remember this. The visit was, like I told you, the protocol surrounding it was, I was totally enamored. Like I keep telling you, and you don't seem to be buying into this, it is that I mean is everything. If I were one of his advisors, so let's say I was the president, there's always going to be a time to be invited. President, the Gambia has not gone to Britain yet. He will be going there later on to open the British, the new American embassy. Why this guy will also make a visit, with all the people? It is the timing. Timing has everything. I am enamored of the protocol.
Okay, Mr. Kutubu. Well, we've heard you. Let me make a quick progress because of time, sir. Earlier on, you talk about condescending and patronizing attitude, which you say you don't do. But when you sort of speak to the president, to which some people allude say a sound outrightly rude in one of your broadcasts, and I will remember you on the particular broadcast, you appear say you advise him on the speed in which he needs to act. And I think, say, you've been consistent with that. I must give that to you, to avoid looting and chaos. Seizing of the passports of nationals, like the diplomatic passports, so that you're able to rein people in. But then you turn around again and accuse the president and the leadership of being corrupt or being nepotic or being regional.
No. I better use the focus. Oh no. I stand by this. Except you come up with a copy of evidence linking those words to me as those ones that I've never accused him of being corrupt or being nepotic. And I just told him we need to give him the benefit of doubt. Oh no.
Well, again, Mr. Kutubu, if earlier on this chat between me and you mentioned, your economia. What was that word? Where was it used? Remember the word we used, which you said appeared to be a slur. In other words, Dr. Kande Yumkela was referred to as being a foreigner. And then you also made an example of the president where he speak and the language where he choose for speak. I wonder what were you insinuating, sir, when you made mention of those?
That the president speaks his language.
I'm asking you. I'm asking the question, sir.
No, what you're saying, I mean, are you referring to when the president suddenly, in the middle of his suddenly he came to Mende, and then he called the people and Kenya Moy? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, Kenya Moy obviously means we who are Mendes, who know all the Mende, or the people who are Mendes in the audience, who know who they refer to as Kenya Moy, they know that who Kenya Moy is. In Korea, we call it Alejo Kenya. Okay, you cannot refer to a fellow Salina as Kenya Moy. No, that's out of the question. That's law. You cannot. By any state of imagination, Dr. Nicola has equal antecedents, just like the president.
Which I agree with. But then again, you said that the president choose for speak in language, at a place which you find you find questionable. What were you trying to insinuate?
Obviously, the president was actually appealing to the tribalistic instincts of his people. That's all.
Okay.
I don't have the high words.
Okay, let's make progress. Let me touch on foreign affairs little bit. Under the All People's Congress, the relationship with the East vis-a-vis China was flourishing. Mm-hmm. Do you think this new government will look west?
Again, what we'll do, let us wait until he comes from his foreign minister. Let's see the strategic kind of foreign policy they're going to craft. Based on that, we see where they're leaning. Then we express further opinions about that. That's all. Let's continue giving him the benefit of doubt.
Okay, fair enough. There's been much said about the present head of state, okay, regarding the United States, that he had a deportation order some time ago. And there is much being said on the public domain that he cannot visit the United States. My question to you, sir, do you think now that he's head of state of the Republic of Sierra Leone, will he visit the United States? I am not talking about the United Nations because that's a neutral ground. The United States as a country.
Well, there are two answers to this. It is just why he said that the United States, through the State Department, has issued invitation. I heard that yesterday, but I have not confirmed yet. But let's take the A part of your question. Let's assume that's not the case. It will fall in the category of Mrs. like the Vice President of Liberia, Mrs. Taylor. He will obviously not come, and when he comes, he will only be restricted to the United Nations. So, like you said.
You mean she, Joel Taylor?
Yes, she's one of those that have been declared persona non grata.
Okay.
That's a diplomatic language for not, how we come.
Yeah. Okay. I thought there was two parts you wanted to address them briefly.
Well, the next part of it is that he said, that I'm not sure, he said, I had it, and I'm trying to recite it. He has been officially given invitation to come to the United States. But like what the guy said, he will come on his own timing. I had that yesterday. But since it's just something I had, I'm going to confirm that, I'm going to cross-check, and when I cross-check, I put it up. So for the time being, I'm just going to leave it as speculation.
Okay. Of course, looking at the parliament as we see it now, there are many questions regarding, again, what transpired a few days ago. But looking at it as a whole and realistically, what do you think are the prospects of this new parliament? What are your views on this new parliament? What do you think will it represent? In other words, will the people benefit from this new parliament?
Well, we have to take into account, and also these fellows coming, but if this is the very first time they're coming into a setting like that, number two, they're coming to a setting now where the public eyes are on them. And they are going to be under the microscope. The fundamental question is, are some of them equal to the exigencies of the intractable commitments they have entered into? That again, we'll wait and see when the parliament gets to the session. Let's see what they do, and then we'll come up with an informed judgment about them.
Okay. You like to speak largely about historical analysis. I wonder why.
Well, it's simple. Like I said, I'm going back to my friends in philosophy in one box. One.
Yeah.
Mr. King is another one. And then our old man in Britain, Mr. Churchill, he always spoke lightly in that. When you don't look at history, there's always a tendency for you to repeat what has been done. And in most cases, things that have been done did not go well at all. So the incidents of history gets to be your guide. That's why my eyes are always on history. I don't talk without frustrating with history. What history told me. Parallelism, all the job because you earlier spoke of colonialism, you spoke of that, and this was the first thing. Egoism and all this type of thing. I would rather prefer to see this government come up with a lean but highly efficient management of a structure that will deliver, that to have all the time to satisfy everybody and then in the end become a colossal failure. That's where I look at it, sir.
Okay. Obviously, it was 5 I was looking at, but we've got a spelled out one, where represents a lot. Thanks for that. We get time for reflect now. Candidate Bio appeared to be the disciplinarian, even during the presidential debate, and even where he been at the military junta. Okay, he appeared to be a disciplinarian, so he gets a track record for run-on, and he make that clear during the presidential debate. Do you think that this will reflect as His Excellency Julius Maada Bio?
He has to be consistent with it. He accepts the fact that he is now, his modus operandi of government falls within the realm of the rule of law. And that's it, we take it from there.
Good. So what are you against? What do you stand for? What are your values? What are your morals?
Me as a person?
Yes, sir.
What do I stand for?
Yeah, what do you stand for?
Well, Martin Luther King said,